Hello everyone, my name is Shanken Chen. You can also call me Dr. Chen. So today I would like to talk about the history of the violin. Three things maybe we can think about it. So where does the violin come from, and when does the violin come from, and why? Okay, those three words. So I would like to start from the where. So the earliest string instruments came from the documentary. So might come from Central Asia, and then gradually spread out to China, India, and other Middle East countries in that time. So what are the Central Asia's countries? Nowadays there are 5 countries there. So like Kazakhstan, or Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, and also Uzbekistan, and the other one is Turkmenistan. So they all have the Stan name at the end of their country's name, Stan. Okay, so about that area is called the Central Asia right now. So the scholar thinks maybe the earliest string instruments came from that area. Okay, and then gradually spread out to the different countries. And it is about like 1500, the first violin appear in the world, but there is no any survival documents or any representations or anything say from 1500 to 1530s, which means the first decade of the 16th century. There is no actually a real violin appear. We can only see some paintings or books saying there is already a violin exist during that time, from 1500 to 1530s. About like 1530s, start from there, the earliest violin maker is also called luthier, 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 or violin maker, or instrument makers, luthier. They started to initially draw the pictures about some early instruments than the violin. They might copy or maybe try to create some kind of violin which is a little bit similar than our modern violin. Okay, so there are 2 kinds of early string instruments very similar to our modern violin. The one is called rebec, R-E-B-E-C. These instruments already been played since 10th century, and if you Google or look at the pictures about rebec, R-E-B-E-C, you might see the pictures which has an angel was holding the rebec instrument, and also the other hand was using the bow to play this kind of instruments. Nowadays you can still see rebec, these instruments. It was a very tiny, small kind of violin figure or violin bodies, and holding on your left hand arm, and your right hand was holding the bow to play. And very interesting is the rebec only has 3 strings compared to our modern 4 strings violins. Okay, the other earlier instruments before the violin is called rebab, very similar to rebec, right? Rebab, R-E-B-A-B. These instruments looks like our Chinese instruments, 二胡, but there are 3 strings. And the way to play rebab is also you have to hold the instruments on your lap and then play the bow on top of the instrument. So the way you play rebab is also similar to the way we play 二胡. Nowadays, you can hear rebab's instruments were playing in maybe some Muslim countries like Middle East or even South Asia like Indonesia. You can hear those kind of player, they still play rebab, this kind of instruments. And then began from 1530s, the violin makers, they started to draw and also carve the model of the violin. And do you know why? Because at that time, there is a very important violin maker or luthier. His name is called Andrea Amati, A-N-D-R-E-A, and then last name is Amati, A-M-A-T-I, Andrea Amati. Why he is so important? He was originally a instrument maker who made the lute instrument, L-U-T-E. Lute instruments is can be all kinds of plucked string instruments. That means like our modern guitar, or like ukulele, or any kind of plucked string instruments can relate to the lute family. So lute makers, they have to create lute instruments. And so at that time, a lot of people has request to make the lute, so they can play around, maybe working on the streets, they can play the lute. Or maybe for some entertainment, they can play the lute. And one day, the statesman and the ruler of Florence is a city in the North Italy. So the ruler of the Florence, his name is Lorenzo II de' Medici, L-O-Z-E-R-O, Lorenzo de' Medici. Remember, it's second because he has the same name as his father. His father is also called Lorenzo de' Medici. Both father and son, they were the ruler of Florence. And father is also a very important and powerful man during the Renaissance. And the second was rule Florence 3 years, from 1516 to 1519, during the 3 years. So one day, Lorenzo II de' Medici, he asked Andrea Amati to see if he can create some instruments that they could play by the bow instead of regular plucked string instrument. That means you just use your finger to play the instrument, the lute, okay? And then Andrea came home, just think, maybe he can do something similar to the lute instrument. So that's why the violin was created by the Andrea Amati, okay? So the earliest 4-string violin was created by Andrea Amati was in 1555, okay? And it was called by the Lorenzo II de' Medici. So the violin first appeared in the north of Genoa. Genoa is also a harbor city or port in the north of Italy. If you look at Italy's map, you can see it's located in the northwestern side. And the violin is also called violino, V-I-O-L-I-N-O in Italian. If you translate it to English, it would call small viola, okay? And in addition to the earliest documented book, which describe about the violin, it was published by a very important musical scholar at that time. His name is called Philibert Jamp de Fer. This guy create or published this book in 1556. If you look at this book, it's called Epitome Musical. Epitome Musical. This book, if you look at this book, you could see a lot of pictures, talks about how the violin looks like and what kinds of bow they were used during that time. And next, I would like to talk about why Andrea Amati is so important for the Medici family. So we already talked about Lorenzo de' Medici, who was the ruler in Florence, right? So this family, Medici, during that time, they were kind of governor or authority. So they have certain powers and also certain patron to give the people some entertainment. So they request from Andrea Amati to create the violin. And so the daughter of Lorenzo II de' Medici, her name is Caroline de' Medici, who became the Queen of France because she married to Henry II of France at that time. So imagine in the 16th century, the France is not what we imagine today. During that time, Italy or Italian is much more in advance, not only in the arts and also the music, and a lot of like literary or science is much way better than the French. Okay, during that time there is not much going on, especially for the arts in France. So when Caroline married to France, she brought a lot of things from Italy, including the violin. Okay, so Henry II of France and Caroline, after they marry, they have their daughter Elizabeth of Valois, who later married to Spain prince. His name is Philip II of Spain. So in order to congratulate for their marriage, Andrea Amati creates a violin in 1559 as a gift to both Philip II of Spain and Elizabeth of Valois for their marriage. Nowadays, this violin was stored in the Metropolitan of Arts of Museum and Arts in New York. So if you are interested to look at this early violin, you may go to the museum. Okay, and later on, Andrea Amati also created some early violin like Charles IX. This violin was created in 1564. Okay, so remember we talked about Caroline de' Medici, who was the Queen of France. So she had 3 sons. They were later on became the King of France. So the first one is Francois II, and then Henry III, and also Charles IX. Okay, so Andrea Amati also was requested to create the violin for one of the French king, Charles IX. And so if you look at the picture of Charles IX, the violin, you will see a lot of beautiful decoration on not only on the top of the violin, but also on the back of the violin. There are very beautiful decorations there. So so far, I already talked about the history of the violin. If you are interested about the history of the violin, in the next episode, I would like to continue for the topic of the violin, and I might introduce you about what kind of materials we'll make for the violin's making, and also some of the name of the violin part. So I'll just here and stop here and then say thank you.